So my name is Pablo Álvarez. I lead the product management team at Denodo. And as Ali just said, we joined the Presto Foundation this year. And the main reason for that is that we started distributing Presto as one of the components of our platform. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what we do and what's the role that Presto has in that platform. So who's Denodo? Let's start with that. Well, we've been doing data management since the early 2000s. We are headquartered in Palo Alto. If you're in University Avenue, feel free to come by, say hi. We are across the street from Joe and the Juice, if you're familiar with Palo Alto. And from a value proposition of what our company is trying to do, our software is trying to do, is try to give you software that allows you to embrace the fact that you have a distributed data landscape, that data is everywhere, and be able to manage that consistently. There is a lot of reasons why data is distributed. You have legacy software that is still, mainframes up and running in insurance. You have different departments that like to do their different things. You have Excel spreadsheets, and we have new initiatives like lake houses and things like that. So in most companies that we work with, we see sometimes hundreds of systems that are part of the data ecosystem. And something that we want to do with our software is to create a way to manage that with consistency. And I'm using the word management on purpose. We're not doing to do just execution or just security. There is a lot of things that are part of working with data, and that's kind of what we're trying to do. How are we trying to do that? We're trying to do that through, sorry, I think I'm in the middle of the screen and I'm probably covering my own slides. We're trying to do that with an intermediate layer, a semantic layer, that allows you to bring that consistency, bring those capabilities across the board, so you don't have to do something different from that Excel spreadsheet that you do for Presto. And put those capabilities together to bring agility in data management, that consistency that I mentioned, and together work towards a faster time to market. So when you're trying to make a decision based on data, you can do that quickly, and you don't have to take months, weeks, or hours. As soon as possible is always better. So to do that, we have that semantic layer. That semantic layer gives you a central access point for any data. A little bit expanding that idea that Tim and others have been talking about, that consistency in accessing your data, but get that to another level. Get that to the company level. That's why the first title in my slide, I was talking about, I actually didn't read the title that I should have done, but I was talking about pushing the data lake strategy to an enterprise fabric. Fabric is a word that analysts like Gartner and things like that like to use to describe that kind of layer above your data ecosystem as a whole. And that's kind of what we're trying to do there. Simplifying access, so you have a single access point to connect to any data. That's important. Security and compliance are important. You can secure any data set with the same sort of security rules, security policies, and giving flexibility for data integration. That's also something quite important on the technical side. Moving things to the data lake makes sense sometimes. Doing other things like ETLing things somewhere else, real-time federation, or just getting data from wherever it is makes sense as well. Streaming integration makes sense other times. We try to give flexibility on that aspect. So that's at a high level what we do. But we are at PrestoCon. I want to focus on what we do with Presto in particular. So this is a high-level diagram of our platform. As you can see, there is different components that we provide. The core component is that central layer. I like to think of that, we call it the virtualization server, that gives you virtualized access to all your data. I like to think of that as an API manager. If you're familiar with API managers, it's a way to kind of have a facade for all of your APIs, so you can bring security and other aspects there. We do something very similar, but on the SQL world. I think that's probably the best analogy if you're familiar with that piece of technology. Data resides wherever it is. You see here the warehouse, the on-prem data, APIs that we can call real-time. All of that access is centralized there, so you can access it from Tableau, Power BI. We have JDBC, ODBC drivers. We have native Python drivers. We are working on an Arrow Flight interface as well. We also have a module to expose any data set from anywhere in the company as an API with no coding, in GraphQL, in OData4, or in REST. We have a catalog for business users. We have a scheduler to run batch jobs. And this is the role that Presto has. It's that engine that gives us that lakehouse component that can run queries at meta scale on top of your content in Parquet, in Delta, in Iceberg, in object storage. How do we do that? What's the integration between the different pieces? Well, we give you one thing that kind of complements what Presto does on the execution side, which is the graphical introspection of your data lake. So if you inherit a bunch of Parquet files or Delta or whatever, you can browse through the object storage that you configure there, and then just see the objects as if they were in your file system. Click on a button, and now it's a table in Presto that you can query. We allow you to very easily load data into Presto, just with a click of a button from wherever it is. We have literally hundreds of connectors for pretty much anything. And if you have already data in Presto or in the data lake, you can run an ELT job based on the data models that you can create within the tool that will run the query as a select into and will persist it in another part of the data lake. We can connect to pretty much anything that has data, literally. Come ask me later if you have some questions there, but things from SAP to APIs, we can get data in real time, and we can use that to load it into Presto if you want. And if you don't want to load it there, we can just go push down the query to that system and get the results live. We also have query acceleration capabilities. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the idea of aggregation awareness. We can do that on top of any data source, Presto included, and also on pretty much anything else, a Snowflake, an Oracle, BigQuery. So a very interesting way, as you can see, to make especially analytical queries run significantly faster. We also do this with the help of AI. A critical part of aggregation awareness is to detect usage patterns and optimize for those. So we give you that out of the box. We can do federation across data sources, any of the data sources that we support. We do this with our own technology, but in some scenarios, especially when you're federating data lake with something else, we can also leverage Presto capabilities for that. So we have an optimizer that is quite advanced. We've been working on this for like almost 20 years at this point. That is able to do very smart things when you're trying to real-time get data joined from Snowflake and an Excel spreadsheet, for example. And a lot more that I'm just gonna go fast through. We have a lot of modeling capabilities to create that semantic layer. This is something that our customers really like. Create reusable data models with the graphical wizards, get things like data lineage, like change impact detection, and things like that. You can even import data models from existing modeling tools like Airwing, SAP Modeler, and things like that, so you enable a top-down design. That's something that also a lot of our customers love. We can implement those security policies that I was talking about for consistency, both in RBAC and ABAC. So we can do security based on roles, security based on session attributes, and you can create those policies based on tags that you can add to your content. You see there an example. We can even get those tags synchronized from external tools like Colibra, like Informatica, like IGC from IBM, and things like that. We offer a front end for business users where you get kind of that documentation, descriptions, data owners, more of like the cataloging governance side of the house. That's also part of what we do. You see there data lineage and data exploration, data query capabilities embedded into that tool, including, as of course, 2023, an integration with natural language, so you can type your query in English and get it translated into SQL. And just to close here, we can also, with any of those data sets that you have, whether they're in the data lake or anywhere else, expose them as APIs with no coding involved. Just GraphQL, OData4, REST, and even GeoJSON if you have geographical information. you see there the documentation we generate. And that's all. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to address those in the table outside, do a demo or whatever else. And thank you all for being here. We are very happy to be part of the Presto family, Presto community, and you'll see more of us in coming events and coming communities.